Welcome back, guys. This is the second devlog so far for this small project of building a transport tycoon-style game by including the Indian Railways. I'll just demo it a bit and explain as we go on. So I've added some test buttons here for placing the tracks and the trains. If we press Q here then, we can toggle between the different orientations of tracks. I set the hotkey for toggling to Q since it's near W, and most folks who are gamers will understand easily. So I'm just gonna set up a rather complex track here to test our trains. The corner track bends are a bit too sharp and unrealistic because trains don't generally make such sharp turns in real life. So I'm actually planning to replace them with some longer track bends if it's possible. For now, I kept them for the sake of convenience because it's easier to test this setup if the corners occupy just one tile. But yeah, I will have to remove them and put some larger track bends similar to what Transport Tycoon, OpenTTD have done. Also, yeah, you can notice I put one tile on the water by mistake, so please ignore it. I will put another track there in some time, don't worry. Of course, in real life, no train could possibly traverse this kind of track unless it had very small coaches. Maybe a tram could traverse this track. Yeah, one thing I've added is tile detection. So basically it will check if the tile is already occupied by some object. Then the preview will show green and we can place the track. Otherwise it shows red to indicate that the tile is occupied. The same simple tile occupancy logic applies for the trains here too, except that we can only place them on tracks. While this train is running now, let's build another track, but a closed one from the spare track tile we left earlier. Also, I had removed the transition sprites which were in the previous devlog now, because some of them were having different sizes, and we had to fix them via scaling in the code, which was a bit problematic. And the sharp turns are going to be replaced with some realistic turns, so the transition sprites would be different naturally. So here I am putting two trains one behind the other, because I want to show another small feature. Basically, once we set the destination for a train, and it is blocked, then it will not run once the other train starts. So you can purposefully delay one train if you want. There was a small bug here which I overlooked. The following train seems to go through the other train. No problem, this is usually what happens if the developer and tester are the same person. Sometimes you find bugs accidentally like this while recording. Anyway, you can see now that I have added one general class carriage to each train. As of now, folks in this game can only travel by unreserved general class. If you've ever been to India, you will know what I mean. Don't worry, I will be adding the other coaches like sleeper and AC coaches soon. Each train would have like an array or list of coaches, so you as a player can customize and add whatever coach you want, or at least that's the plan for the future. Okay, now I'm just gonna reset this because I want to show you some scenarios. So basically when a train goes on a track, it checks the next tile to see if that's a valid track piece or not. If the track piece is misaligned, then the train is not going to go ahead. It will stop. Very basic check, very basic. And yeah, I also wanted to show the blocking scenario, where two trains are placed on a track. I think I already showed this before in the previous run, so if you want you can skip on ahead to the code. So let me just keep on adding these tracks. After this, I'll add the coaches to the trains on the central two tracks. And yeah, coaches can block trains as well. This should be pretty clear-cut too. Basically, the train will stop one tile before, so there is always some gap. Otherwise, the sprites tend to overlap if they are on adjacent tiles. Almost done, just got to add some extra tracks now. I think we're good. I'll fix the destination for each of the trains now and set them off. Yeah, the destination can only be a track as of now, because trains can't really run on the grass. Later on we will add stations and other waypoints for the trains like how other games do. Yep, the test seems to work pretty well. The trains are blocked successfully. Let me see if I can trigger the same bug which we saw before. I'll just set the destination of the leading train here. And let them run now. There it is, the bug has come again. Whoops, although it is a pretty simple fix, we just have to ask it to check again if the leading train starts moving. Basically, each train has a buffer here, so once that buffer is cleared then it moves, except I think I missed adding the double check in that conditional statement. But yeah, so far, I think the rest of the stuff is working as intended up to now. So that's about it for the demo part. I'm gonna jump into the code in anti-gravity now. Yeah, here you can see the camera script. It's basically almost unchanged from last time. We still have the same movement and zoom scrolling mechanics, except that I changed the camera movement from the arrow keys to WASD. You know, because it's used frequently in other games, and also the arrow keys were highlighting some UI elements here in Godot as well, so I wanted to avoid that. And well, there was a script attached to a path-follow 2D node earlier. I've removed that now and put a single combined script which is attached to the main world node. You must have seen a lot of dictionaries in use as we scrolled past, so the main reason for using them is to store all the possible directions for the trains and tracks, which makes it easier to swap sprites. I also use those directions for the look-ahead pathfinding for the trains. Here you can see the code segments for the button presses. For most of this code, you must have known or guessed that I generated it using anti-gravity itself. So I think it uses some vector math like a dot product to determine the heading of the train, and then uses that for moving the train to the next tile. But after calculating the heading, it also refers to the dictionaries above to calculate the direction if the next tile is a turn, as it doesn't automatically know what kind of turn is coming up. Now you can see this process function. It basically handles the logic behind placing the tracks and trains on the isometric 2D grid. So basically, it uses an enumeration variable called tool mode and switches between the elements of that enumeration based on what button the player presses. For these building or placing actions, there's always some process in the background running frame by frame. Well, because it has to constantly check whether there's some obstacle while placing, or if the tile is not an eligible spot like a water tile. That's why we have the process function placed there, to do some background checks while the player decides where to put his tracks and trains. Also, you must have noticed the word tween here, and they're right. So basically, it's a very handy programmatic way of moving things or animating stuff if you don't want to take the effort of manually animating. For the movement, the earlier the train used to follow a defined path 2D, but now the code simply tweens the train between two positions on the world. And Godot handles the creation of tweens very well, so I've heard there is not much to worry about when it comes to garbage collection. I'm also using these tweens for animating the pulsing selection animation. You must have noticed some pulsing on the train sprite once I selected it earlier. Overall, I think it's a very handy and very efficient method for indie folks who can't afford to spend time or money on professional animations. Now the rest of the code at the bottom is mostly for debugging. I've hidden those text boxes, which I use for debugging in the demo because they're quite messy. Anyway, yeah, we've now reached the end of the code. So yeah, guys, thanks for having the patience to listen to this ramble in today's devlog. As a reward, I'll just show a demo of one particularly crazy track and try to make two trains face each other. Yeah, let's watch them run for a moment. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next devlog.